Okay, so today I want to talk about Tallahassee. So here we go. This is downtown Tallahassee, and Tallahassee is the capital of Florida, so there are a lot of state buildings downtown. It's one of the older cities in Florida. So when Florida was first founded, it was first settled by the Spanish, and they um, created the first settlement in St. Augustine. You know what? Why don't we go over there real quick? It's kind of on topic. And so St. Augustine is actually the oldest city, I believe, in America, older than any city in Massachusetts, where I'm from, including Plymouth. Downtown St. Augustine is pretty cool. This looks like an old building built out of stone. Who knows how old this one is? Could be quite old. It could be one of the original buildings. Here's the harbor. So you can see why the Spanish wanted to be here. It has this natural harbor feature with the barrier island out there. A good place to bring in ships. Over here, we got some more traditional buildings. This one looks quite old, right? I mean, look at these. Okay, so this is like old St. Augustine. Got the brick streets. Again, probably not completely original, but I'm sure that is how they were back in the day. And, it's not wide enough for two cars to go down at the same time for sure. It looks like there are people using these for cars. You got this car parked over here. But it's a very walkable, nice little tourist town. Unfortunately, it's not like a super functional place. You can't have tons of people living here the way it's set up because they probably restrict development of historic sites. There's probably not any major industry here that would cause it to further develop into a kind of modern walkable city like Boston or something. But it's a nice place to go. It's a nice place to vacation, and the reason why it's nice is because you can walk around. And in Florida, that's very difficult to do. Some of these buildings remind me a lot of home back in Massachusetts, traditional architecture. This thing, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that repainted. I don't know if, they limit the amount of repainting you can do because of the historic character. You can see it's got a plaque on it. It's definitely a historic building. Can't imagine we're going to be able to read that, but anyways, we're kind of off topic here. I want to go back to Tallahassee, which is not walkable at all. You can see, I mean, just compare in your mind. If you remember those little streets in St. Augustine, right? You would have houses all in here. This would be a one-lane road. There would be cars parked on the side. And, you wouldn't have all this undeveloped space that does nothing. This isn't even a park, or this is used for nothing. I think you might even be able to park your car here, but I seldom see that actually done. It's used for nothing. Here, look at all this on-street parking. This is never used. Very, very rarely. If there's an event on Gain Street, which is a couple a year, I think, there's a music festival. And you know what? I bet you would be able to park here without fail, even on those music festival days. Yeah, a little more on this street before I move on. If you have parking like this that is totally unused, then it's being priced wrong, right? So these all have parking meters. So you can't park here for free. You have to pay, a minimum of a nickel for 6 minutes, I think. Or maybe it's, yeah, I think you might get 6 minutes for a nickel, 12 minutes for a dime, half hour for a quarter. So it's 50 cents an hour, which is really cheap, but still not cheap enough, right? Because there's nothing here. I mean, look at what you can do. You can park your car and walk to the Action Auto store, which nobody does that, and they have their own parking, right? You can go stand in this field, right? It's for sale. Somebody should buy this. This is in the middle of downtown. I don't know what you would put here, because even around here, like I don't know that people want to live here. Law students would probably love to live here because it's really close to law school. but you're stuck looking at this parking lot on the other side of the lot, right? And you got all these kind of like derelict buildings on this side, so I can see why it hasn't sold, I guess, you know. But it's still centrally located. You got downtown right here, you got the law school over there, you got undergraduate campus over this way. It's definitely being underused the way it is now, for sure. But anyways, yeah, the street, if nobody's willing to park here for a nickel, you gotta make it free, you know, because that's the only price people are willing to pay is nothing, which is says a lot about downtown Tallahassee for sure. But that would be an improvement, you know, make it free. And there are some things down this way that people are gonna want to walk to. There's a hot dog place which is kind of suffering in the parking situation, you know. If you had this parking free over here, you could maybe change this into a proper sidewalk with some green space in front, right? Which would make it a more attractive area. So yeah, that's one thing you could do. I mean, obviously, all this stuff costs money. I understand why it's not going to be done overnight, but there's just so much room for improvement. I feel compelled to comment. This area is not the worst in terms of walkability. Gain Street, you know, it may actually be the best. Not a lot of businesses between the college bar portion and downtown. You just got this hot dog stand. I think you have a few restaurants, which may be popular among college kids. You got a record store, which I don't know if that's still in business. I mean, I feel like when I stopped buying records, they should have all closed down because I was one of the last and biggest buyer of records back in the day. But even I can't justify it anymore. You know, it's just embarrassing to say you paid $12 for a record at this point. You know, maybe I'll leave a link to Spotify down in the description if any of you guys are still trying to be dinosaurs. You should really try and move over to a streaming service. Anyways, here's a big problem, right? So you get to the bottom of the street, and this is the same street where the free parking was up there or whatever, right? And you have this huge intersection that who wants to cross this? You know, this is not. These little girls are gonna cross it. They're gonna jog across there. They're exercising though. They're not just hanging out. They're not just, you know, trying to get a coffee and a slice of pizza. Look at these gas prices. Man, I wish it still cost that much to get a gallon of gas. But yeah, the streets are too wide, and there's too much traffic. And remember, you got the lights, right? So you have to sit and wait for the lights. You know, probably a while, and it's like 90, 95 degrees in the summer. You have no shade-producing trees at these corners, right? It looks like it's the winter here or the spring, so it's probably not too uncomfortable. But during the summer, you know, these don't produce any significant shade. You need to be planting your big oak trees at all these corners to plan for the future, you know, and create a nice shaded environment. But anyways, all of these crosswalks, even if the light turns to a favorable color for you, so you have permission to cross, you got cars turning right on red into you as you cross, right? So you have that to look out for. So it's just a stressful experience. You certainly don't want to be pushing a baby carriage out into the crosswalk with cars turning right and red into you. Yeah, so that's part of the problem. You got this small portion of businesses here that is cut off from the rest of Gain Street by this gnarly intersection. And you know, this intersection is not good. There are many, many intersections that are much worse throughout Tallahassee. I guess, what are the solutions before I move on? Obviously, put those oak trees in I talked about to produce some shade, so at least while you're waiting, you have some shade. And if you can't get oak trees, maybe, I don't know, find some kind of fast-growing tree that will produce that shade in the short term. Don't put a palm tree here. That doesn't give you any shade. And no matter how, you know, really what needs to be done is the roads need to be narrowed if you're going to make it pedestrian friendly, which would probably never happen, but that's how you get there, is by narrowing some of these roads, or I guess putting in these green strips that you see in parts of Tallahassee that make it easier to cross. But you need to have crosswalks to the green strips. And ideally, you want them to kind of destroy these turn lanes, right? So right at the end of the turn lane, instead of a turn lane, you have a green strip, and that would make it safe to cross. But, you know, it destroys the turn lane, which people don't like. Okay, so moving down Gain Street. This is the most walkable portion of Tallahassee, actually. So I don't know if I should have started with this, but anyways, here we go. Got a coffee shop. I don't like this coffee shop. There's a better one over here on Railroad Square, kind of behind this building, but it's not on Gain Street, so I'm not going to go over there today. Here you got undeveloped space, just going to waste, you know. Put a park in. Put a park with some benches and a place for people to kind of meander. The problem with what they're doing in Gain Street is they're just filling every space with the building. And while I think it's good that they're densifying the area, there's nowhere to just kind of hang out between places, right? So if you want people to spend a lot of time somewhere, they have to have a place to rest between shopping, right? I mean, you want people to come to your town, you want them to go to one shop, hang out for a while, go to another shop. You don't want them to come, just get one thing and then leave, right? I mean, this is if you're, you know, pro commercialization of downtown, and you like environments downtown where you can spend a whole day, right? Instead of just going there to get one thing. So it's all new development through here, which, you know, I don't really have an issue with. It's not like the stuff they were replacing before was super historic or anything. I think it was a bunch of warehouses for the most part. And, you know, I think the buildings are kind of ugly, but the format where you have residences on top, businesses on bottom is all good for walkability. What might be even better would be to have offices on the second floor and then have residences above that. Now, would that work in Tallahassee, where it's just a college town for the most part with some state workers? I don't know. You know, I don't know if there's enough professionals that would want to kind of live in this area and work in this area where it's all college kids to support that. So, you know, maybe they're doing it right. I feel like at least one of these buildings they could have done that for, though, because they're right. They got like 10 of these developments that all look exactly the same. So now, so here they have the parking is all paid parking. They don't have the token meters. Instead, they have these electronic booths that take card, which I think is probably an improvement. Certainly, we're moving towards a cashless society, and you know it's hard to remember to bring quarters with you places, but you always got your debit card. So I like the system. I've gotten a ticket here for using it incorrectly, or maybe just failing to pay. I don't remember, but yeah, regardless, I think it's a good system. And remember back to that other street with no parking? Here instead, we have very good usage of this parking space, right? And so the theory behind parking, which if you want to read a great book about that, the book is called The High Cost of Free Parking. I recently put it on eBay, but then I took it down because I like it too much, and I didn't want to give it up. The theory behind parking is you want to charge enough that there's always a few spaces open, right? And that way you can always count on there being parking when you get down there. And so pricing that correctly takes active management of the parking spots. You know, you need somebody to come down and look. Oh, is it full all the time? We're not charging enough if it is. Or is it completely empty all the time? We're charging too much. Ideally, you want to be able to have flexible parking so it costs like more on a Saturday and Sunday. But, you know, there's only so much that the city's willing to do on that front. I like this part of Tallahassee. The problems with it are maybe nothing the city can do about. It's just too college-oriented. I'm almost 30 now. To live here would be kind of ridiculous for me. You know, you're just going to be surrounded by college kids partying. You got loud bars everywhere, which I don't think there's anything wrong with having loud bars in an urban environment like this. But having the college kids all around you and probably partying in their dorms playing music loud doesn't make for an attracting living environment for me. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. It's a little disorganized, I guess. It was about the walkability of Tallahassee. I'm going to make a lot more videos about issues with cities in America, and I'm going to try and connect it to some national issues as well. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.